Krystal Everdeen, and today I'm going to share with you how to crochet this fishnet cover-up dress. And for this project I'm using 100% acrylic size 4 yarn from the brand Red Heart. And if you're curious to know where I got this from, I bought it on Amazon, and I will link it in the description box below via my Amazon affiliate links. I'm also using a size 5mm hook, and I will also leave a link to the hook I'm using in the description box below. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our yarn and our hook, and we're going to create a slip knot. Now, if you are a complete beginner to crochet, I highly suggest that you first watch my Crochet for Beginners video first, practice with that, and then come back to this video. So after you create your slip knot, you're going to put your hook through it, and then you're going to chain a chain that is long enough to cover from this point on your body to this point on your body, making sure that they do not overlap, because in the end we're going to make this a lace-up back, so it is adjustable and you can get in and out of it. So yeah, make sure that you make enough chains so that it reaches from this point in your body to this point in your body without overlapping. Otherwise, this project is going to fit you too big. And of course, everybody has a different size and preference, so the number of chains is going to be different for literally everybody. However, if you're curious to know how many I made, I'm usually a size extra small to small, and I made a total of 110 chains. And again, that fits me from this point in my body to this point in my body, and it doesn't quite touch unless I really tug it. That's perfectly fine. And you want to really make sure that you get this part of the project right, because you do not want to do all this work and then you put it against yourself to try it on and it ends up not fitting you, because that would be a lot of time wasted. So make sure that it fits you properly. Again, you may need to make less chains than me or more chains than me depending on your size and preference, but for reference I did chain 110. So after you're done with your chain, you're going to then chain 5 from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go back into that stitch, that the last stitch that you made before you made the 5 extra chains, and you're going to slip stitch into it. And then you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch after that. And a slip stitch is through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and then back through the last loop on your hook. And then from here, you're going to chain 5 yet again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this time you're going to skip 2 stitches and then go into that third stitch with a slip stitch, which is again through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and then through that last loop left on your hook. You have this little fishnet stitch. This first one is always a little bit wonky, so it's okay. The rest of them are going to look more uniform. So then from here, you're going to slip stitch into that next stitch, and then you're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to skip 2 stitches, go into that third stitch with a slip stitch, and then you're going to go into the next stitch after that with another slip stitch, and then you're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to skip 2 stitches, go into that third stitch, and then slip stitch into that stitch. Then you're going to go into the stitch after that, and then slip stitch, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 2 stitches, go into that third stitch, then you're going to slip stitch into that stitch, slip stitch into the stitch next to it, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 2 stitches, slip stitch into that third stitch, and so on and so forth. I think you understand the pattern now, and this is what the project looks like. Yeah, that is essentially the pattern that you're going to follow for the rest of the chain that you created all the way to the end. So from here you just continue on making your loops, your little fishnet stitches. Although actually I just found out that these are not called fishnet stitches. This is a diamond stitch. So diamond stitch, fishnet stitch. It reminds me of fishnet, so that's why I call it fishnet. But yeah, again, you're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 2 stitches, go into that third stitch, slip stitch into that stitch, then slip stitch into that next stitch, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 2 stitches, then go into that third stitch, slip stitch into it, slip stitch into that next stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains, skip 2 stitches, go into that third stitch, slip stitch into it, then slip stitch into the next one, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth until you reach the end of the chain. And once you do, I'll go ahead and meet you there. So once you've completed your first row of fishnet stitches, I'm just going to continue calling them fishnet stitches, then this should look something like this. So just a bunch of loops all throughout the chain that you created, and it may be a little bit twisty, but that's okay. It will go away once we create more and more rows. But yeah, now that you've reached the end, we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to create a double crochet on the side of the last stitch you created in the first row. And that's just going to give like a bit of stability towards the ends of the project, just so it doesn't like flare out. So, oh yes, a double crochet is yarn over through the stitch, which is just through the opening right here in the fishnet stitch, back through the stitch, then yarn over again through 2 loops, and then yarn over again through the last 2 loops. And then from here, I know it doesn't look like much now, but once we continue doing that with every row, it's going to be more like a solid base for the sides here, which is going to be important for the end of this project when we decide to add the lace together. But that's getting ahead of myself. Just, yes, make a double crochet at the end of the row. And then from here, we're just going to make a tiny little loop. We're just going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then slip stitch into that first fishnet stitch, just so it has a little something right there. And then after that, we could go on to our normal fishnet stitches of 5 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to go into the fishnet stitch and slip stitch into it, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go into the next fishnet stitch and slip stitch into it, preferably the middle, somewhere in the middle. And then from here, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch into the next fishnet stitch, then chain 5, 4, 5, slip stitch into the next one, and so on and so forth until you reach the end of the row, and your second row of fishnet or diamond stitch should look something like this. And again, all you're going to do is do that for the rest of the row until you get to the very end. And then I'll show you again what you need to do once you get to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into the previous row's fishnet stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into the next fishnet stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into the fishnet stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch all the way down the project until you reach the end. Okay, so now that I've reached the end of the row, I'm going to go into the very last stitch. So I went into the very last fishnet stitch with a slip stitch, but now I want to go into the very, very last stitch of the row. So I'm actually going to go into the side of this fishnet stitch. And then I'm going to make a single crochet. Then from here, I'm going to chain 1, flip the project over, then make my double crochet within that single crochet that I just created. And after I crochet my double crochet, now we have a nice square edge to this otherwise round stitch. So from here, we're going to do the same thing we did in the other side. We're just going to chain 2, 1, 2, go into this fishnet stitch at the edge, and create another smaller fishnet stitch at the end of the project. And then from here, that's when we continue on with our normal fishnet stitches consisting of 5 chains. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into the next fishnet stitch, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch into the next fishnet stitch, then chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch into the next fishnet stitch, and so on and so forth until you reach the end of the row, and then you just repeat the pattern over and over again for a very long time. And essentially that is practically the whole project until we get to the hips. And you're just gonna keep doing that over and over and over again until the project grows and grows and grows and grows. And every so often I will check in to give you updates on what the project looks like in the meantime. But yeah, essentially that is everything that you need to do for this project for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're just going to continue with this pattern until you put the project against yourself as if you're going to wear it and it reaches your waist. And then once it reaches your waist, I'll let you know what the next steps are, but let me just go ahead and continue on with this portion of the project and then show you updates every so often until we get to the waist. So I've done a couple more rows and this is what it looks like. And again, at the end of every row, I make sure to make that double crochet so it could be nice and flat right here and solid. And that's going to help later on in the project when we do the lace. But yeah, so this is what it looks like so far, and the next time I will update you, it will be long enough to reach from the top of my chest to my waist. And again, all I'm doing is literally repeating the same exact thing. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And then slip stitching into the next fishnet stitch, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch into the next stitch, and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to continue building it more and more and more, and I will get back to you once it's long enough to again fit me from the top of my chest to my waist. Okay, so this is what my project looks like after 30 rows, or at least about 30 rows. So I put the project against myself and it fits from the top of my chest to my waist. And that's the portion of the project where I want there to be a lace-up design in the back. So I'm going to stop right here and finish the top portion of this dress, specifically because I want that lace-up portion. However, if you did want this dress to be more of a solid dress with no lace-up portion, then you could always attach the two edges together and make it one solid piece. And if it's stretchy enough to go, you know, over your shoulders and fit you the way you want to, that's great. But because I wanted it to be more like shapely, so it cinches it at my waist, and I'm also able to like get in and out of it easily, I wanted to do the lace-up design, so that's what we're going to do right now. But again, you do have that option if you wanted to just be all like one solid piece so that there's no openings in the back like mine. So once the project fits you from your chest to your waist, you're going to then make sure that you end at one of the ends right here. So I'm right here currently, and what we're going to do now is make a strap. And to make the strap, all you need to do is chain 150 chains. At least that's how many chains it takes for me, but you again may need more or less chains depending on your size and preference. But for me, 150 works well. So you can go ahead and try that, and if it's too short, then you could just add more. And to know if it's too short or if you need to add more chains, essentially what we're going to be doing is lacing up this strap to the back here. So if it's long enough to zigzag from here to here to here to here to here to here, then you're good. But if it's too short, then you need more. And that's essentially how you measure it out. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and make my 150. Okay, so I'm just going to start where I left off. So again, all I was doing was making rows and rows and rows of the fishnet stitch. And then for my last row, I ended up right here. And since this is actually going to be towards the bottom of the dress, the top of the dress is right here where we made the very first chain, I actually want to have the strap laced downward. So instead of making the strap right here and then lacing it up, we're actually going to start up here and lace it down. And again, for reference, I chain 150, but again, since I don't want to start at the bottom here, I'm actually going to single crochet my way up to this point and then make my chain. But again, this is totally optional for you. I just decided to do it because I think that it would be easier to take on and off if my chain started from the top and then laced downward. So all I'm doing is going into any opening on the side right here and single crocheting. And if you're unfamiliar with what a single crochet is, it is through the stitch, or the opening I guess, and then yarn over and through both loops left on your hook. So through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, back through the last 2 loops left on your hook. And again, I'm just trying to find the nearest opening and just single crocheting my way into it, and it will make this row of single crochet that is great for making my way up here, and then also making the edges less jagged. So that way when we do lace up the back, there's actually a lot of space to do so, as opposed to just this area right here. So I guess regardless, I would recommend doing a row of single crochet, maybe a row or 2, just to even out those ends and make it easier for the lace up back, if that's what you want to do. So I'm just going to continue my single crochet until I reach the other side of this project, and then once I reach the other side, I'll make the strap. So I will see you there. Okay, so I've reached the end. This is what it looks like. Again, I am working on the side of the project, so this whole time we've been making rows and rows from here, and then I stopped here. I single crochet my way up the top, and now we're at this point and we're going to make the strap. And to make the strap, all it is a chain. And again, I chain 150 chains, but yours may be longer or shorter depending on your size and preference. But just as a reference, I chain 150 because I know that's what works for me. I've been making a bunch of crochet tops for years, and I know that 150 is like my go-to number for the back strap. But if this is your first top, then I recommend that you use trial and error and maybe do 150, see if it works, and if not, then you could just add more. But yeah, I will get back to you once I finish my 150. So I have completed my 150 chains, and now I'm going to go back on it with a slip stitch because I don't want to cut the yarn from the yarn ball. However, if you do want to cut the yarn from the yarn ball, you don't mind, you could totally do so from here. You just cut the yarn from the yarn ball and then reattach it to the other side and then repeat the process. But because I like to cut the yarn from the yarn ball as little as possible, I'm just going to go back on it with a slip stitch. And again, slip stitch is through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, then through the last loop left on your hook. And I'm going to do that all along the chain until I reach the end here. And then once I reach the end, I'm actually going to go back down with a single crochet and then make one more row of the fishnet stitch, go to the other side, and then single crochet my way up, make my strap of 150, go back down with a slip stitch, and then single crochet my way back down, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the dress cover up thing. But yeah, that is the plan. So yeah, I'm just going to continue on making my slip stitches on this strap until I've reached the bottom. Okay, so I went all throughout the chain with a slip stitch, and this is what it looks like now, just a little bit thicker than the chain by itself. And I like that because it makes it a little bit more sturdy, it looks cooler, and also again, I don't have to cut the yarn from the yarn ball. But now that I am back at the body of the top of the dress, again, this is the part I'm working on right now, so it's on the side. So I'm going to go down here with a single crochet, and then once I reach the edge right here, I'm going to make one row of the fishnet stitch, which is 5 chains and then a slip stitch, and then 5 chains and a slip stitch, and so on until we get to this side. And then I'm going to repeat the exact same steps that I did on this side over here and make the other strap. And now you can see the difference. See how like this side is all wonky and stuff at the edge, and then this side is nice and clean and straight and pretty. So that is the plan. I will meet you once I am done with both sides. So yeah, all you have to do is repeat the exact same steps that I showed you for this side, but on the other side. So yeah, I'm just going to single crochet my way down and across, and then I'll show you what the end result looks like. Okay, actually before I skip to the end result, let me show you again. So I just finished the other row of single crochet all the way down and back to the bottom where we started this whole strap journey. And what we're going to do from here, right here at the end, is pretty much what we do every single time. We're going to go ahead and make a double crochet at the end here. And then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, then slip stitch into that first fishnet stitch of the new row, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of the row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the normal pattern, then slip stitch, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then slip stitch, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then slip stitch. And again, you could avoid all of this if you want to by just cutting the yarn from a yarn ball and then reattaching it to the other side, and either doing that row of single crochet and then the strap, or just doing the strap. Totally up to you. You don't have to do this extra step, but if you want to do exactly what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to complete this row, go to the end, single crochet my way up, then chain 150, go back on that chain with a slip stitch. Then once I reach this, single crochet my way down, and then I'll meet you over here. Okay, so I am done with both sides, and this is what the end result is. So both sides have 2 rows of single crochet and 2 straps as well. Voila! So this is the top of the dress, and again, what I want to do is eventually lace this up, but that's going to be towards the end of the project, and it's going to look something like this. It's going to be, we're going to lace it up like this, but I'm not doing it now because we need to finish the rest of the dress and then we could do this. But one strap's gonna go here, and then we're gonna grab the other strap and we're going to attach it to the opposite side so it's zigzag, and it's like a corset style top, so you could loosen it and tighten it however you want. And yeah, that's essentially how the top is going to work. But now we need to work on the bottom of the dress, and because the waist is the smallest part of my body and then it kind of widens out at my hips, we want this part to be a little bit wider. So now that we've completed the top here, we're just going to attach the 2 edges together and then work on the bottom portion of the dress as a separate piece. Okay, so I'm going to attach these 2 edges right here just at the bottom. So we're going to leave this part open because this is going to be the lace up part, but then the rest of the project, the rest of the dress is just going to be one solid piece, so there's not going to be any openings and stuff. So from here, I'm going to flip the project back this way, and I'm going to chain 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to grab the other side and I'm going to slip stitch into it. And voila, they are now attached, and now they are one, and this is what the project looks like. So when you try it on, this is going to be the lace up part, and then this is going to be the bottom of the dress. And from here, we're just going to go around and around and around and around forever until you're happy with the length of the dress. Oh, but before we begin, make sure that 3 chains is good enough for you, and the way you will know if 3 chains is good enough for you, or if you need to chain more, is literally just try to put it on, and if you're able to fit it over your shoulders, then you're good to go. If it's too short for you, then just make more chains in between right here before you slip stitch into it, and then you'll be good. So that's how many, or that's how you'll know how many chains you need to make in between. So just try this on. If it fits over your shoulders, then you'll be able to put it on and take it off easily. But if this is not able to go over your shoulders or over your hips, then you need to make more, just so you know. Alrighty, well, from here, I'm just gonna continue on with my pattern. But now this is a circular project as opposed to a linear one, so we don't have to worry about the edges like we did at the beginning, it's just going to continue on as a circle around and around and around and around. And you're just going to continue making fishnet stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a slip stitch into that fishnet stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into that fishnet stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch, and so on and so forth. And I'll let you know what it looks like when I come back around this way, and I'll also show you my progress. But essentially that's what you're going to do. You're just going to continue making your fishnet stitches on top of the previous row of fishnet stitches. So I will get back to you once I have made it all across. Okay, so I went around once making my fishnet stitches, and now I am back to where we attached the two ends together. And from here it's pretty much going to be the same thing. I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to skip 2 stitches, go into this 3rd stitch and slip stitch, making a brand new fishnet stitch. It's about the same size as all the other ones. And then I'm going to do the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains, skip 2 stitches, go into this 3rd stitch right here, and then slip stitch. And from here I'm just going to continue on as normal, making another row of fishnet stitches on top of the previous row of fishnet stitches. So from here I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the previous row's fishnet stitch, and voila, it is now all one piece. And I'm just going to go around and around and around from here on in, essentially. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then slip stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then slip stitch. So yeah, just continue making your fishnet stitches until the skirt portion of your dress is long enough to your liking. You can make this a mini dress, you can make it a maxi dress, whatever size that you like. I'll show you the progress as I keep going, but yeah, that's just one row after we've attached the back portion. And because we added these few extra fishnet stitches, this side is going to be wider than this side, because typically your hips are going to be wider than your waist, so it's good for this to be a little bit bigger, to flare out a little bit. And yeah, so that's essentially the plan, and I'll go ahead and update you as I go along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch. And yeah, once you come across this area again, you're just going to treat it as any other fishnet stitch and just slip stitch into it, and again just go around and around and around and around. Alrighty, so I've completed a few rows, and this is what the progress is so far. This is where we attach the two ends together, and again I just treated the new fishnet stitches as I would any other fishnet stitch, and now it's pretty seamless. You can't really tell where we added the new ones. And yeah, I'll just keep going around and around and around making the fishnet stitches, and eventually it will look more and more like a skirt, and hopefully it'll also flare out a little bit more. Typically when I go around and around as opposed to back and forth, it tends to flare out a bit. I don't know why it's specifically this stitch that likes to flare out more, but in this case it actually works out because we want it to flare out a little bit. If it does, then good, and if it doesn't, then that's fine too, because this is a very stretchy stitch. But yeah, so I'm just going to continue making my fishnet stitches around and around and around until it gets longer and longer and longer, and I will check in with you later. So here is the progress of a few more rows after where I left off. So this is where we attach the two ends together, and then I've just been going around and around and around and around, and as I predicted, it's starting to flare out a little bit. Well, also because I've been stretching it out. So if yours isn't flaring out as much as mine, then it's probably just because mine is stretched out, and that's okay. However, if you notice that it's just like straight down and it's not as stretchy as you want it to be, not as big as you want it to be, you can always increase the number of total stitches, which will make this portion wider if you have big hips and you want to make sure that it fits you. And to increase, all you need to do is add an extra fishnet stitch every now and again. So say if I wanted to start increasing the number of stitches, then I'm going to make my 5 chains, 2, 3, 4, 5. And instead of going into the next fishnet stitch and slip stitching into it, I'm actually going to go into the same one that I'm already in and make another fishnet stitch within the fishnet stitch that I've already slip stitched into. So that's going to be an extra one. And then from here I'm just going to make another fishnet stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go into the next fishnet stitch. See, and then this is just like an added little fishnet stitch, and then you could do that every so often, and that will increase the total number of fishnet stitches per stitch as opposed to the rest of the project. So from here on end, it will start extending more and more, and then you can kind of gauge if you want to make it bigger or if like a couple of added fishnet stitches is good enough. And yeah, that's if you want to make it bigger. Now, opposite, right? If you notice that this is getting too wide and your hips aren't that wide and you want it to be more snug, then you can decrease the number of stitches. Now this one is a little bit harder because now that we're working in a circular pattern, it's going to be a little bit more noticeable as opposed to you just removing a stitch at the end of the row. So for this one, I haven't really figured out how to do it so that it looks nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one option is to just skip a stitch completely, skip over the fishnet stitch, and then go to the next one after that, and now you have, you know, one less fishnet stitch because you skipped over it, but obviously it looks kind of weird because it's just a giant gap. So I thought that maybe if I go down this way, then forward, then through this fishnet stitch and slip stitch into it, maybe it's a little less obvious, but I don't know what you think. But yeah, if you really need to decrease the number of stitches, that's one option. You basically just skip a stitch. And if you know a better way to skip a fishnet stitch or decrease with a fishnet stitch, let me know, because I've been trying to figure it out and I just think it looks really weird. So hopefully you're not in that situation where you need this to actually be not as flared out or not as big, and everything's working out for you. But yeah, those are two options that you have if you run into those issues. But if you're not running into those issues, then fantastic. All you need to do is continue on making your fishnet stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the slip stitch into the next stitch, and so on and so forth, around and around and around. And yeah, so I'll update you once it's even longer. Okay, since we're already here, I'm actually going to show you how to lace up the back because the straps are getting in my way and there's really no reason to wait till the end. So what you're going to do is grab one side of your straps and then kind of align it to where you want the straps to be. I like to do this so I don't have odd spacing when I do attach them. So I think that this spacing is good, making sure that the last point is at the very, very bottom. And then once I decide on where I'm going to attach them, I'm going to place my hook through the stitch where I want the strap to be attached to, and then I grab the strap and I bring it through that stitch, and then I bring the rest of the strap through with my hand, and then it's nice and attached. And I do the exact same thing for the rest of the points. Sometimes I have to re-evaluate where they're going to go again. It looks pretty even to me. So I'm going to put my hook through the stitch, grab my strap, and then bring it through that stitch. And then just repeat the process until I get to the bottom. Here is some more progression. So again, I've followed the same exact pattern and have just been going around and around and around and around, and I am now about this far along. So still too short to be considered even a mini dress because it doesn't really cover anything. But I was thinking, when I get to the point where it covers what it needs to cover down here, I do want to make a slit. Now, you don't have to do that. You could just keep going around and around and around until you are happy with the length of the dress, and it could just be, you know, a solid dress. However, I feel like this design would look so much cuter if it has a slit. So once I get to that point, then I'll show you how I will make the slit. And if you don't want to make the slit, then again, all you need to do is keep going around and around and around with your fishnet stitch. And that's pretty much it until we make the straps, if I decide to make the strap, because now I'm thinking I want it to be strapless, but we'll see, we'll see. So the dress still fits me as a super, super, super short mini dress, but this is where I'm going to start the slit. And to do the slit, I tried it on already, and then I figured out where I want the slit to be, and I kind of indicated it by stretching out the stitch that I want like the gap to be in. So I crocheted my way over to where that stitch is, which is right over here. And what I'm going to do now is turn back around this way. So I was working this way, and now I'm going to go back this way, and I'm going to just skip this stitch from now on, and that's just going to leave an opening. So I'm no longer going to be going around and around and around, making it a solid one piece. I'm going to be going back and forth as if this was the end of the project. So this will be the end, and then I'm going to crochet my way around over here, and then over here, back to where this stitch is, and then I'm going to end it right here. And then I'm going to turn the project around, and then I'm going to go this way. And once I get here, I'm going to turn the project around and then go back this way. Hopefully you can see what I mean. But again, so this is the stitch that I want to be skipping from now on. So from here, I'm just going to go into the side of the last fishnet stitch, kind of like how we did in the beginning when we were going back and forth. And I'm going to make a double crochet, and then I'm going to flip the project over, then chain 1, 2, 3, and go into that very first fishnet stitch, and then just continue on with more fishnet stitches until I go all around back to this fishnet stitch that I want to skip, and then I'm going to stop over here and then go back around, and so on and so forth. So I will no longer make any fishnet stitches on top of this particular fishnet stitch because of the fact that I want a slit in the dress, which is just a little opening in the dress. 2, 3, 4, 5. But again, if you do not want a slit in the dress, then totally skip this part and just continue making your fishnet stitches around and around and around until you're happy with the length of the dress. Okay, so now that I've gone back and forth with this pattern a few times, it's a little bit easier to see what I've done. So again, I just skipped this one fishnet stitch right here, and I just haven't been making any fishnet stitches on top of that. And every time I get to either side of that fishnet stitch, I treat it as an edge of the project. So I make sure that I make a double crochet and then flip the project over, and then start on the new row of fishnet stitches on the other side until I go all the way around, and then come to this side. I do the exact same thing, make a double crochet, then flip the project over, then chain 3. But then pretty much just start the new row on the other side, and then make my way all around to the other side and do the exact same thing. Go back this way, then this way, then this way, then this way. And this is what the project looks like after a number of rows. And I'm just going to continue doing that until this dress reaches below my knee, or maybe even further than that. I mean, right now it looks really cute as a mini dress, but I did want this to be a bit of like a maxi dress kind of, so I'm gonna keep going until I reach that length, and I'll show you the end result. Okay, so I can't really lie down on the floor and show you anymore because it's too long, but this is what the dress looks like. I went all the way to just below my knees with that pattern, and I'm done. Woo! So again, you just continue going and making more rows and rows of fishnet stitches until you're happy with the length. If you wanted it to be a mini skirt, then you could have been done a while ago. If you wanted it to be maxi skirt, and go all the way down to the floor, all the way down to your ankles, then you just keep on going. And then once you're done, you just cut the yarn from the yarn ball, seal the project, and you're good to go. It's that easy. I do want mine to be a strapless, but if you want to add straps to yours, all you need to do is go to the top right here, attach the yarn to where you want the straps to be, then make a chain, probably like 50 chains on either side, and then you could just tie the 2 chains together, and that could be like your neck strap. You could just like whoop, like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and try it on and see how it fits. And that, my friends, is how to crochet a fishnet cover-up dress. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it interesting, entertaining, or helpful. And if you did, please give it a big thumbs up before you go. And if you love crochet videos, I have a ton of them on my channel, ranging from beginner-friendly to more advanced, to crochet outfit ideas, project ideas, crochet with me. There's just so many videos on my channel if you want to go check that out. And don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye! And have a magical day.